The church was packed. 250 people, maybe more. All of them dressed in their Sunday best, sweating in the June heat because the air conditioning had broken down the night before. I sat in the front row, my knees aching, my hands gripping the edge of the pew so hard my knuckles went white. My son, Derek, stood at the altar in a crisp black tuxedo. He looked like a stranger. His hair was slicked back, his smile was wide and practiced, and his eyes never once looked at me. Not for the whole ceremony. The organ sta root playing. The doors at the back swung open. And there she was. Vanessa. In a dress that must have cost more than my first truck. White silk, lace sleeves, a train that stretched 10 feet behind her. She walked down the aisle like she was accepting an hour road. The guests rose, turning to watch her. Cameras clicked. Somebody's baby sta root crying, and I heard a woman shush it loudly. That I watched Vanessa's face as she approached the altar. She was beautiful, sure. All that blonde hair and those sharp cheekbones. But I saw something else too. The way her eyes scanned the room, counting heads. The way she smiled at the mayor, who was sitting 3 rows back. The way she ignored my daughter, Clara, who was crying quietly in the second row. Derek took Vanessa's hand. The minister Clea read his throat and began the familiar words. Darly beloved, we are regathered here today. I tuned it out for a moment. My mind drifted back to the night Derek told me he was getting married. We were sitting in my GA rage, drinking beer, and he had that look on his face. The one that said he wanted something and he was going to get it no matter what. Dad, I met someone, he had said. Good for you, son. What's her name? Vanessa. She's incredible, Dad. She's got this vision for our future. A big house, investments, connections. She knows people. I remember feeling a flicker of pride. Derek had always been ambitious. More ambitious than me, that was for sure. I'd spent 40 years working on the assembly line at the Ford plant, coming home with grease under my nails and a back that ached in the rain. I wanted better for him, and he seemed to have found it. Then I met Vanessa. It was at a steakhouse downtown. She ordered the most expensive thing on the menu without even looking at the prices. She talked about her father, a real estate developer who had made millions during the boom. She talked about her mother, who sat on 3 different charity boa RDS. She never asked me what I did for a living. She never asked about my wife, who had passed 3 years ago. After dinner, Derek went to the bathroom, and Vanessa leaned across the table. Frank, she said, Derek tells me you own the house on Maple Street. The one with the big back EA road. Own it free and clear. I said. She smiled. That's wonderful. Derek and I have been looking at properties, but the market is just so crazy right now. A place like that, it could be a great investment. Or, a lovely place for a young family to start out. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. The minister was still talking, something about the sanctity of marriage. I looked at Derek's face. He was staring at Vanessa with this empty-eyed adoration that I didn't recognize. This wasn't the boy who used to catch fireflies in Mason Jars. This wasn't the teenager who rebuilt a Mustang engine with his own hands. This was someone else entirely. And then it happened. The minister said the words. If any person present can show just cause why this couple should not be married, speak now or forever hold your peace. Silence. The kind of silence that presses down on your ears. I heard someone cough. I heard fabric rustle as people shifted in their seats. Derek's eyes finally landed on me. And something flickered there. Guilt. He looked away quickly, tightening his grip on Vanessa's hand. I stood up. Every head in the church turned. The minister blinked, confused. Derek's face drained of color. Vanessa's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second before snapping back into place. Dad, what are you doing? Derek's voice was low, tight. Sit down. Son, I need to tell you something. Not now. He was angry now, his jaw clenched. Sit down, Dad. I'm serious. 3 days ago, I said, my voice rang across the silent church, I came to your house to drop off the wedding gift. A check for $30,000 Rs. Every penny I had saved since your mother passed. I wanted to give you a good start. Vanessa's eyes went wide. Derek, what is he? I had a key, I continued. You always told me to let myself in. So I did. And I found something in your office. Dad, please, for the love of God, sit down. She was there, I said, pointing at Vanessa. But she wasn't alone. The church erupted. Whispers, gasps, a woman are the back saying, "Oh my Lord." Vanessa's face contorted into something ugly, her refully applied makeup doing nothing to hide the rage beneath. You're she spat. You're a bitter old man who can't let go of his son. Refill, Vanessa, I said. Because I have proof. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out my phone. The same phone I had been using for 5 years, with the cracked screen and the case that was held together with duct tape. But the recording app worked fine. I recorded everything, I said. Every single word. Derek stepped forward, his hands balled into fists. Get out of my wedding. Right now. You're not going to ruin this for me. I pressed play. The speaker on my phone wasn't loud, but in that silent church, it might as well have been a stadium PA system. Vanessa's voice came through, clear as a bell. Derek, babe, you need to hurry this up. The house will be yours in a month, and then we can sell it and use the money for the down payment on the beach property. Your dad won't even know what hit him. He'll be so busy being happy for us, he won't notice we're taking everything. Derek's voice, shaky, uncertain. But he's my dad, Vanessa. He raised me alone after Mom died. He gave up everything for me. You can't just be successful. Look at him, Derek. He's a factory worker. He lives in a house that's falling apart. He drives a truck from the 90s. Do you want to end up like that, or do you want to build something real? He worked hard for that house, Vanessa. It's all he has. And it's going to be ours. That's the point. Once we're married, you'll have power of attorney. He's old, Derek. He's not going to live forever. The house will go to you anyway. Why wait? Why let him squander it on God knows what? Derek's silence on that recording was deafening. It stretched on for 15 seconds. 20 seconds. And then his voice, a whisper. You're right. You're right. I don't want to hurt him. You're not hurting him. You're helping us. That's what family does. They help each other. And when we have the money, we'll buy the beach house and start our real life. He can visit. Maybe. If he's not too much of a downer. The recording clicked off. The church was so quiet you could hear the flies buzzing or the stained glass windows. Vanessa's face had gone pale, her red lips parut in shock. Derek looked like he'd been punched in the stomach, his hand still holding Vanessa's but loose now, uncertain. You were going to take my house, I said, my voice trembling but steady. You were going to take the home your mother and I built, the one we brought you home to from the hospital, the one where you took your first steps and learned to ride a bike. You were going to steal it, sell it, and leave me with nothing. Dad, Derek's voice cracked. He let go of Vanessa's hand, stepping back. Derek, don't listen to him, Vanessa hissed. It's fake. It's manufactured. He probably hired someone to pretend to be me. He's jealous, Derek. He's always been jealous. I laughed. It came out bitter and broken. Jealous of what? Of a woman who's willing to destroy a man's family for a piece of property? No, son. I'm not jealous. I'm here broken. Clara stood up in the second row. Her face was streaked with TRS, her mascara running down her cheeks. I knew it, she said, her voice cutting through the tension. I told you, Derek. I told you she was using you. But you never listened to me. You never listened to anyone. Shut up, Clara, Derek snapped, but there was no conviction in it. He was lost, drifting in the wreckage of his own choices. Why didn't you say something to me, he asked, turning to me. His eyes were red, his composure crumbling. Why did you let me go this far? Why did you let me stand up there and make a fool of myself? Because you wouldn't have listened, I said. You made that clear when you stopped returning my calls. You made it clear when you told me not to come to the engagement party. You made it clear when you root treating me like a burden instead of a father. Vanessa grabbed Derek's arm. We can fix this, she whispered urgently. We can get a lawyer. We can sue him for defamation. We'll say it's all lies. Forget it, Derek said, pulling away from her. Forget all of it. What do you mean, forget it? She shrieked. We have a plan. We have everything set up. The honeymoon, the beach house, the business you wanted me to invest your father's money in. The one that was supposed to make us millionaires. Tell me, Vanessa, was any of it real or was it all just a way to get my hands on my father's house? I could see the moment Derek finally understood. It was like watching a light switch flip in a dark room. His shoulders sagged, his face crumpled, and for the first time since he was a boy, I saw my son cry. He turned away from the altar, away from Vanessa, and walked toward me. The guests parut like the Red Sea, silent and watching. He dropped to his knees in front of me, right there in the aisle of the church, and he sobbed that, I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean, I never meant to hurt you. She told me it was the only way. She said if I really loved her, I'd do this. She said we'd take care of you. I believed her. I reached down and put my hand on his shoulder. My hand was shaking. I know, son. I know. She almost took everything from me, he choked out. From us. And I let her. But you didn't, I said. You stopped. In the end, you stopped. I helped Derek to his feet. He was shaky, leaning on me for support like he used to when he was a kid, learning to ride that bike, the one with the red paint and the white tassels on the handlebars. My knees complained. My back was a knot of old pain. But I held him up. That's what fathers do. We hold our sons up, even when they're trying to fall. Clara was crying. Not the quiet kind. The ugly kind. Her mascara was ruined, her shoulders heaving. But she was also glaring at her brother with fire in her eyes. You're a fool, Derek. An absolute fool. How could you? Clara, enough, I said. We'll talk about it later. Right now, we need to get out of here. Outside the church, the June sun was brutal. It hit me like a hammer. The guests were scattered across the parking lot, huddled in clusters, whispering and shooting glances our way. I saw Vanessa's mother standing by a black Mercedes, her phone pressed to her ear, her face twisted in panic. She was already calling damage control. I knew her type. Social climbers with expensive handbags and cheap morals. Derek's truck was parked 2 rows back. A new Ford F-150, shiny and ridiculous. Vanessa had convinced him to buy it. You need to look successful, she had told him. Perception is everything. I'd seen the loan papers on his kitchen counter. 7 years of payments at 18% interest. My stomach had turned. Keys, I said. Derek fumbled in his pocket and handed them to me. His hands were shaking, his knuckles white. I didn't say anything. I just opened the passenger door and guided him inside like he was a child. CLARA climbed into the back that I pulled out of the lot, leaving the church and all its whispers behind. I didn't look in the REA review mirror. I didn't want to see Vanessa's mother pointing at my truck. I didn't want to see the mayor shaking his head that the drive home was silent. CLARASTA read out the window, watching the strip malls and fast food joints roll by. Derek STA read at his hands. I STA read at the road and thought about the recording on my phone. The recording that had changed everything. I'd found it by accident. 3 days ago, I'd gone to Derek's APA meant to drop off the check. I'd been saving for 2 years. Every overtime shift, every skipped lunch, every time I chose beans over steak. $30,000 RS. It was going to be his wedding gift. His mother would have wanted that. She always said we had to give our children a better START than we'd had. Derek wasn't home. I used the key he'd given me. The one he'd pressed into my palm with a smile, RS ago, when he'd moved into his first place. You're always welcome, Dad. Always. I walked into his office to leave the check on his desk. That's when I saw it. The recording device. A small black digital recorder, the kind lawyers use, sitting on a stack of papers next to an empty coffee mug. The red light was blinking. It was still recording. That I should have turned it off. I should have walked out. But I saw the title on the papers underneath the recorder. Property Transfer Agreement, Maple Street Residence. My house. My name. A signature line already marked with an X. That my blood turned cold. I hit stop on the recorder. Then I hit play. And I listened to everything. Every word of their conversation. The way Vanessa manipulated my son. The way my son hesitated. The way he finally gave in. Derek, babe, you need to hurry this up. Your dad won't even know what hit him. He's old, Derek. He's not going to live forever. I sat in that chair for an hour. Just STA ring at the wall. Listening to the recording over and over. Feeling something inside me crack. Then something else harder. That I took the recorder. I copied the file to my phone. And I walked out with it in my pocket. Now I was driving my broken down son home, and I wasn't sure what to feel. Anger, sadness, relief, it was all jumbled together like a bad stew. My house came into view. The old place on Maple Street. 2 stories, faded white paint, a porch that sagged in the middle. The backyard was a jungle of weeds and wild roses. My wife used to tend those roses. She'd spend hours out there, humming old songs, clipping and pruning. After she died, I couldn't touch them. I couldn't even look at them. But I couldn't cut them down either. So they grew wild. I parked the truck and helped Derek out. CLARA followed us up the steps, her heels clicking against the wooden boa RDS. Dad, your porch is rotting, she said, frowning. That everything's rotting, I said. That's what happens when you get old. CLARA softened. She knew what I meant. It wasn't just the porch. It was me. All the years of factory work had worn me down. The arthritis in my fingers. The ache in my chest that came and went. The loneliness that settled in like a permanent guest that we walked inside. The house smelled like dust and old memories. The living room was cluttered with newspapers and old photographs. I'd never been good at keeping things neat after my wife passed. She was the one who made it a home. I just lived here. Sit, I said, pointing to the couch. Derek collapsed onto it. He was pale. Sweating. His tuxedo was wrinkled, his bow tie hanging loose around his neck. He looked like a man who'd been pulled from a wreck. She had me convinced, he said, his voice hollow. Dad, she had me completely convinced. Every time I had a doubt, she'd spin it. She said you'd be happier in a smaller place. She said you'd be proud of us for building our future. She said a lot of things, I interrupted. And you believed them because you wanted to. Derek flinched. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, I said. You think I wanted to stand up in that church and humiliate my own son? You think I wanted to hear my grandson's name, if you ever have one, spoken with disgust? No. But I had to. Because if I didn't, she would have taken everything. Everything I worked for. Everything your mother and I built. Derek's head dropped into his hands. I can't believe I let this happen. I can't believe I was that stupid. Clara sat down beside him. She put her hand on his back. You're not stupid, Derek. You're desperate. You've been chasing something your whole life. We all have. You just chased the wrong thing. I tried to tell him, she said to me, her voice thick with frustration. I tried to warn him about her. But he wouldn't listen. He told me I was jealous. Jealous that he was happy and I wasn't. Clara, I'm sorry, Derek said. I didn't mean that. I was just, I know what you were, she said. You were in love. Or you thought you were. It happens. Is it over? He asked. Is it really over? I walked to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. My hands were still shaking. I took a long swallow, then another. The water was warm. The tap had been running funny for weeks. I needed to call a plumber. I needed to do a lot of things. No, I said, turning back to face them. It's not over. That recording is going to spread. Vanessa's not the type to let this go. Her family's got money, Derek. Her father's got lawyers. And she's going to come after you. She's going to come after all of us. Derek looked up, his eyes wide. What do you mean? I mean she's not going to just disappear. She's going to fight. She's going to say I faked the recording. She's going to try to turn everyone against us. She's going to make herself the victim. Clara frowned. But we have proof. We have the recording. The recording proves she was planning to take the house, I said. It doesn't prove anything else. And she's a good liar. The best liar I've ever met. Derek stood up. His legs were unsteady, but he was trying to pull himself together. What do we do? I set the glass down. The answer had been forming in my head since I heard that recording. I'd had 3 days to think. 3 days to plan. 3 days to figure out how to protect my family without destroying it. We do what we should have done from the start, I said. We dig. We find out everything we can about Vanessa. Who she really is. Where her money really comes from. What she's done to other people. You think she's done this before? Clara asked. I know she has, I said. People like her don't start with something this big. They work up to it. They practice on smaller fish. I walked over to the old wooden desk in the corner of the living room. It was covered in papers and dust. I opened the bottom drawer and pulled out a folder. Inside were printouts. Things I'd looked up over the last 3 nights. Property records. Tax liens. Civil lawsuits. I found something, I said. Vanessa's father, the big real estate developer, he filed for bankruptcy 5 years ago. He's been living off credit cards and loans. That beach house she was talking about, it's not in their name. It's in her mother's cousin's name. A shell company. Derek took the folder. He scanned the pages, his eyes moving quickly. Her father's name is on these liens. He owes hundreds of thousands in back taxes. The house on Maple Street wasn't just about getting a place to live, I said. It was about liquidity. Vanessa needed cash. She needed to pay off her father's debts. And she was going to use my house and your inheritance to do it. Clara gasped. That's criminal. Not yet, I said. But it's going to be. Derek sat back down, the folder in his lap. He looked at me with an expression I hadn't seen in a long time. Respected, how did you find all this? He asked. I'm not completely useless yet, I said. I retired. I got time. And I can still use a computer well enough. This is huge, Dad. It's leverage, I said. And leverage is the only thing that's going to save our family. I looked at my children. My son, who had been led astray by greed and flattery. My daughter, who had been right all along. They were all I had left in the world. I wasn't going to let anyone take them away from me. Not a woman who thought she was SMA ruder than us. Not a system that chewed up old men and spat them out. We're going to fight back, I said. We're going to get ahead of this. Before she knows what hit her. Derek looked at me, his jaw set. What's the play, Dad? I smiled. It was a grim smile, the kind you get when you've already lost everything and have nothing left to lose. We give her a choice. She disappears quietly, or we take everything we've found to the police and the press. Her reputation. Her family's reputation. Everything she's built on lies, we tear it down. Will it work? Clara asked. It has to, I said. Because I'm not losing you kids again. Not to her. Not to anyone. I stood up straight. My back ached. My hands shook. But I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Fired up. Call a family meeting, I said. Tomorrow. I want everyone here. Everyone who matters. We're going to tell them the truth. I was done hiding. Done apologizing. Done letting other people decide my family's future. Vanessa had no idea what she just root. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. My back was stiff, my joints popping like old wood as I swung my legs out of bed. The house was quiet. Derek had crashed on the couch, still in his wrinkled tuxedo pants. Clara had taken her old room upstairs. I could hear her moving around, the floorboards creaking above me. I made coffee. Black, strong, the way I'd been drinking it for 50 years. I stood at the kitchen window and watched the sun come up over the neighbor's fence. The wild roses in the backyard were blooming. Red and pink and white, tangled together in a beautiful mess. My wife would have loved this morning. By 8 o'clock, the family route arriving. My brother, Carl, showed up first. He was a retired cop, still built like a linebacker, with a gray buzz cut and a permanent scowl. He walked into my kitchen like he owned the place, poured himself a cup of coffee, and looked at me with those RP cop eyes. Frank, he said. I heard what happened. He wrote it from 3 different people before my eggs were done. Word travels fast. Church parking lots just gossip mills with pews, Carl said. So. Tell me everything. Don't leave anything out. I told him. The whole thing. The recording. The property transfer papers. The shell companies and the tax liens. Carl listened without interrupting, his face getting harder with each sentence. When I finished, he set his coffee cup down and cracked his knuckles. That woman's a con artist, he said. Plain and simple. I've seen 100 like her. They find a vulnerable RK, they isolate him from his family, and they drain him dry. Derek wasn't vulnerable, I said. He was just blinded, Carl finished. I know. It happens. Doesn't make him a bad kid. Just makes him human. The door opened again. My sister, Rida, walked in with her husband, Tom. Rida was the family organizer, the one who kept track of birthdays and anniversaries and who owed who a favor. She had a notepad in her hand and a worried expression on her face. I've been on the phone all morning, she said, kissing my cheek. Vanessa's mother is calling everyone. She's telling people you're unstable. That you have dementia. That you made the whole thing up. She's doing what? Clara Ape read at the top of the stairs, still in her pajamas, her hair a mess. That's insane. Dad is sharper than all of us combined. She's desperate, Carl said. When people read desperate, they lie. And they lie big. Tom sat down at the kitchen table. He was a quiet man, a high school principal, used to dealing with difficult situations. What's our plan, Frank? I pulled out the folder. The one with all the printouts. I spread them across the table. Tax records. Property deeds. Bank statements I'd managed to find through public records. There was a photo too. A mugshot from 10 years ago. Vanessa's cousin, the one whose name was on the beach house deed. He'd been arrested for fraud in Florida. This is everything, I said. This is the whole web. Vanessa's father, the shell companies, the debts. They're all connected. She didn't just try to steal my house. She tried to steal Derek's future. She tried to use him as a cash machine. Rita picked up the mugshot. Her eyes narrowed. This is the cousin, the one with the beach house, same guy, I said. He did time for running a fake investment scheme. He'd take people's retirement savings, promise them huge returns, and then disappear. He was out in 3 years. He's still doing the same thing. Just more refill now. So Vanessa Leah Rened from the best, Carl said grimly. Or the worst, I said. The front door opened again. I heard heavy footsteps in the hallway. Then a voice I hadn't expected. Dad. You in here? It was my youngest, Leo. He lived out of state. He hadn't been at the wedding. We'd had a falling out a few years ago, something about money and bad decisions, and he'd gone quiet on me. I hadn't heard his voice in months. Leo, Clara ran to the hallway. What are you doing here? I got a call from Carl, he said, walking into the kitchen. He was taller than I remembered. It's a writer. He had a duffel bag slung over his shoulder and a look on his face that reminded me of myself 30 years ago. He said you needed backup. Said some woman was trying to take you for everything you had. Carl, I said, looking at my brother. Don't look at me like that, Carl said. You needed all hands. Leo's a good kid. He's just been through some stuff. I'm not a kid anymore, Uncle Carl, Leo said. I've been through stuff. That's exactly why I should be here. I didn't know what to say. I hadn't expected this. I hadn't expected any of this. My family. All of them, in my kitchen, ready to fight. Let me see what you've got, Leo said, sitting down next to Tom. He picked up the printouts. He studied them with an intensity that surprised me. ISTA root explaining again. The recording. The property transfer. The shell companies. The cousin's fraud conviction. Leo listened without a word, nodding slowly. You've got enough here, he said, to put her father in jail for tax evasion. But it's not going to be easy. She's going to lawyer up. Her family's got resources. The resources are fake, I said. They're in debt up to their eyeballs. The only reason they can afford lawyers right now is because they're borrowing from other people. Then we hit them where it hurts, Leo said. We go to the press. We show them all of this. We put it out there before she can spin the story. The press. Derek shuffled into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. He'd changed into a pair of old jeans and a t-shirt. He looked like he hadn't slept at all. If we go to the press, this is going to be everywhere. Everyone's going to know. I'll never live this down. Son, I said, she was going to take my house. She was going to leave me with nothing. And she would have done it to you too, eventually. There's no dignity in hiding from that. The only way out is through. Derek looked at the table. At his aunt and uncle, his brother, his sister. At me. I could see the shame in his eyes, but I could also see something else. Anger. Real anger, not the kind directed at himself, but the kind directed at the woman who tried to destroy us. "I'll do it," he said. "Whatever it takes. I'll do it." "Good," I said. "Because we're not just going to the press. We're going to the police too." Carl grinned. "That's my brother. Frank always knows how to hit back." I looked at my family. They were worn and tired and red. But they were here. They were together. For the first time in years, we were all together. That's when my phone rang that I picked it up. The screen showed an unknown number. I answered anyway. "Hello, Mr. Miller," a woman's voice said. It was cold and professional. "This is Sandra Vance. I'm Vanessa's mother. I'd like to discuss a settlement." I put the phone on speaker. I wanted everyone to hear this. "The settlement," I said. "For what?" "Let's not play games," Sandra said. "You humiliated my daughter in front of 200 people. You damaged her reputation. You have no idea what kind of consequences you've set in motion. Your daughter was planning to steal my house," I said. "I have proof. I have recordings. I have documents. And now I have a room full of witnesses." There was a pause on the other end. Then Sandra's voice came back, sharper. "We both know you're bluffing. You don't have enough to do anything with. You're an old man in a decaying house, Mr. Miller. You can't fight us. We have lawyers. We have money. We have connections." Leo leaned in. "Tell her to come to the press conference," he whispered. "Tell her we're holding one tomorrow." "Actually," I said, "we've got a press conference scheduled for tomorrow morning at the courthouse. You're welcome to attend." Another pause. Longer this time. When Sandra spoke again, her voice had lost some of its edge. "Press conference, what are you talking about?" "We've got your father's tax records," I said. "The shell companies. The cousin's fraud conviction. We've got everything. So you can either back off, or we can make sure the whole city knows what your family's been doing." "You can't prove any of that," she said, but there was a tremor in her voice. "I can," I said. "And I will." The line went dead. I looked at my family. They were staring at me with wide eyes. Leo was grinning. Carl was nodding. Rada looked like she might cry. "Did we just win?" Clara asked. "Not yet," I said. "But we landed a punch." I looked at the phone. At the blank screen. Sandra Vance had just made a mistake. She'd called me. She'd tried to intimidate me. And she'd given me something I didn't have before. Proof that she was red. "Let's get to work," I said. "We've got a press conference to plan." We worked through the night. Rada made calls to every news outlet she could find. Carl typed up a statement, his thick fingers moving slower than he wanted, but his words were sharp and precise. Leo went through the documents one by one, organizing them into a timeline that even a child could understand. Clara kept coffee flowing. Tom printed copies of everything on the old printer that wheezed and coughed like an old man. Derek didn't say much. He just sat at the kitchen table, staring at the pile of papers. Every once in a while, he'd pick one up and read it, his jaw tightening. I watched him. I saw the shame still there, but I saw something else too. Determination. He was rooting to understand that this wasn't just about me. It was about him. About his future. About the woman who almost destroyed everything he could have been. At 3 a.m, Leo found something. It was buried deep in a stack of financial records I'd printed from county databases. A property deed from 6 years ago. A house in the suburbs, sold to a woman named Vanessa Vance. The buyer was listed as a single woman, no co-signer, no mortgage. Paid in cash. "What's this?" I asked, peering over his shoulder. "It's her house," Leo said. The one she lives in now. The one she told Derek she rented. Derek looked up. She told me she was renting. She said she couldn't afford to buy because of student loans. That's not true, Leo said. She bought this place 6 years ago. Cash. $140,000 RS. And look at this. The seller is the same cousin. The one with the fraud conviction. The one whose name is on the beach house deed. Rida leaned in. She bought a house from her cousin. With cash. Where did she get that kind of money? Good question, Leo said. Let's dig deeper. And we did. We found bank records, the kind you can only get if you know where to look and you have a retired cop and a stubborn sister with a talent for persuasion. The money came from a trust fund. A trust fund set up by Vanessa's grandmother. Money that was supposed to go to Charity. Instead, it had been funneled into a series of private accounts. Embezzlement, Carl said, whistling low. If she's been siphoning money from a charitable trust, that's felony time. 10 years minimum. But she's not the executor, Rida said, reading the documents. Her father is. The trust is in his name. Carl's grin spread. Even better. He's the one who authorized the transfers. He signed every one of these forms. He's the one who'd go down. I looked at the documents. It was all there. Dates. Signatures. Account numbers. 6 years of financial crimes, sitting in a pile on my kitchen table. The daughter, the father, the cousin. All of them bound up together in a web of fraud and lies. She was setting Derek up to take the fall, Clara said suddenly. Don't you see it? If he had married her, he would have been in the middle of all this. If the trust ever got audited, he'd be the one they went after. The new husband. The one who signed the documents. The one who looked like he was part of it. Derek's face went pale. She was going to make me a patsy. She was going to make you a scapegoat, I said. That's what people like her do. They find someone to carry the blame. You weren't just her husband. You were her fall guy. The room went quiet. Everyone was thinking the same thing. How close we'd come to losing everything. Not just the house. Not just the money. Derek himself. You need to sleep, I said to Derek. You've got a long day tomorrow. I can't sleep, he said. That you need to try, I said. The press conference is at 9. That's 6 hours from now. If you look like a wreck, they'll eat you alive. Clara took his hand. Come on. I'll make you some tea. It's my old tea, the stuff Mom used to make for us when we couldn't sleep. Derek hesitated. Then he nodded. Clara led him upstairs, and I heard the floorboards creak as they walked to her old bedroom. The rest of us stayed up. We kept working. Leo double-checked every document. Carl called an old contact at the state attorney's office. Rida what she would say when the cameras showed up. At 6 in the morning, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. I opened it. Mr. Miller, I think we can come to an arrangement. Let's talk before you do anything rash. Vance. She was offering a deal. She was terrified. I could taste it through the phone that I didn't respond. At 7, Leo went out to buy donuts. He came back with a dozen and a box of coffee. We all ate in silence, each of us lost in our own thoughts. The kitchen was a mess. Papers everywhere. Empty mugs. Crumbs on the floor. It looked like a war room, which I guess it was. At 8, we got ready. I put on my best shirt, the one I'd worn to Derek's high school graduation. It was too tight around the middle now, but I didn't see Carl wore his old police jacket, the one with the patches and the faded badge. Rtha wore a blue dress and Tom wore a suit. Leo wore jeans and a leather jacket, but he'd shaved and combed his hair. Derek came downstairs with Clara. He looked better. Not good, but better. His eyes were red from crying, but his chin was up. He'd put on a clean shirt. He'd combed his hair. Ready? I asked him. He took a deep breath. Ready as I'll ever be. The courthouse steps were already crowded when we got there. Reporters with cameras. People from the neighborhood, some of them I'd known for 40 years. I saw the mayor standing at the edge of the crowd, looking uncomfortable. I saw Vanessa's mother, Sandra, pacing near the fountain. Frank, Carl said, "You see her?" "I see her. She's got a lawyer with her. Big guy in the gray suit." I spotted him. Tall, bald, with a face like a bulldog. He was talking to Sandra, gesturing angrily. They were panicking. "Let them panic," I said. The crowd parut as we walked up the steps. I felt eyes on me. Whispers. Some of them friendly, some of them not. I kept my head up. I kept walking. A microphone was waiting. A local news crew had set up near the main entrance. The reporter, a young woman with a bright smile, was already talking to her camera. "Mr. Miller," she said, turning to me. "We've heard rumors about what happened at your son's wedding yesterday. Can you confirm that you played a recording that exposed a conspiracy against your family?" "Everything you've heard is true," I said. "And I've got more than just rumors. I've got proof." I held up the folder. Thick, heavy, filled with papers. Inside this folder is evidence of a systematic fraud. A scheme that involved a trust fund, a shell company, and a family of con artists who tried to destroy mine. "Con artists?" the reporter asked, her eyes widening. "Who are you talking about?" I turned. I pointed straight at Sandra Vance. Her. The mother of the woman who was supposed to marry my son. Her father, who embezzled money from a charitable trust. Her cousin, who's already been convicted of fraud once before. Sandra's face went white. The bulldog lawyer stepped forward, his arms spread like he was trying to block a bullet. "Mr. Miller, you're making wild accusations without evidence." "I've got evidence," I said. "I've got bank records. I've got deeds. I've got signed documents. And I've got a recording of your daughter telling my son to steal my house." The lawyer's mouth opened and closed like a fish. The reporter turned back to her camera. "This is a developing story. The Miller family claims they have evidence of a massive fraud involving Frank." I turned. Derek was standing behind me, his face pale but steady. There were tears in his eyes again, but he wasn't crying. "Not anymore. Dad, can I say something?" I stepped aside. I gave him the microphone. Derek looked at the crowd. At the cameras. At Sandra Vance, who was glaring at him with pure hatred. "I almost married this woman," he said. "Vanessa. I almost gave her everything. My family. My future. My father's house. She told me it was for us. For our future. But it was never for us. It was for her. For her family. For the money they stole." He held up the folder. "Everything in here proves it. I'm not ashamed anymore. I'm mad. I'm mad at her. I'm mad at myself for being stupid enough to believe her. But I'm here now. And I'm not going to hide anymore." The crowd erupted. Questions from every direction. Cameras flashing. Sandra Vance shoved her way through the reporters, the bulldog lawyer behind her. "You're destroying your own son's life," she screamed at me. "You're making him look like a fool in front of the whole city." "He's not a fool," I said. "He's a victim. And you're the people who victimized him." The crowd cheered. I couldn't believe it. The crowd cheered. Sandra retreated. The bulldog lawyer grabbed her arm and pulled her away. She was still screaming, but I couldn't make out the words. I didn't see a read. Derek handed me back the microphone. His hands were shaking, but his eyes were clear. Thanks, Dad, he whispered. Don't thank me yet, I said. This is just the beginning. The press conference spread like wildfire. By noon, my phone was ringing off the hook. Local news, national news, even a reporter from a true crime podcast. I ignored most of them. I had other things to worry about. By 2 in the afternoon, the state attorney's office called CARL. They wanted to see the documents. They wanted to interview Derek. They wanted to move fast, before the Vance family could destroy evidence or flee the state. CARL drove us downtown. Derek sat in the back, quiet and pale, but his hands were steady. CLARA came with us. She'd refused to stay home, and I wasn't going to argue. The truth was, I didn't want to face any of this alone. The state attorney was a woman named Ellen Cross. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, with a no-nonsense haircut and a voice that could cut glass. She met us in a conference room on the 3rd floor of the courthouse. She had a team of investigators with her, all of them taking notes, all of them looking at us like we were the most interesting thing they'd seen all year. Mr. Miller, Ellen said, shaking my hand. I've been in this office for 20 years. I've seen a lot of family betrayal. But this one. She shook her head. This one takes the cake. I wish I could take the credit, I said. But I was just trying to protect my son. You did more than that, she said. You uncovered a criminal enterprise. The Vance family has been running this scheme for years. We've been watching them for a while, but we never had enough to move. Now we do. She opened a folder. Inside were copies of everything I'd given CARL, bank records, deeds, the mug shot of the cousin, the tax liens. You've got a solid case, she said. This is enough for arrest warrants. 2 of them. Vanessa Vance and her father. We're also going to talk to the cousin, but he's already in violation of his parole, so we can pick him up on that alone. Derek Clea read his throat. What happens to them? Ellen looked at him. Her expression softened. They're going to prison, Derek. Your father's evidence is more than enough for a conviction. The embezzlement alone is a minimum of 7 years. The attempted fraud adds another 5. That doesn't even include the conspiracy charges. Derek nodded slowly. I thought I loved her, he said. I thought I was building a future. I didn't know. Nobody blames you, Ellen said. People like Vanessa are experts at manipulation. They find your vulnerabilities and they exploit them. You didn't fail. You were a victim. Then why do I feel like I failed? I put my hand on his shoulder. Because you've got a conscience. That's the difference between you and them. You feel it because you're a good man. Ellen nodded. That's the part that matters, Derek. You were willing to admit your mistake. You were willing to do the right thing, even when it was hard. That's not weakness. That's strength. The meeting lasted 3 hours. We went over every detail, every document, every recording. Ellen's team asked hundreds of questions. By the time we left, my head was spinning. My voice was raw from talking. My hands were shaking from the coffee and the adrenaline. But I felt lighter. On the way home, CLARA grabbed my arm. Dad, look. She pointed at her phone. There was a breaking news alert. Vance family arrested on multiple fraud charges. I read the article. Vanessa and her father had been picked up at their home 2 hours ago. Sandra Vance had been questioned and released, but she was under investigation as a co-conspirator. The cousin was arrested at his beach house in Florida. All of them were in custody. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Does this mean it's over? Derek asked. Not yet, I said. There's a trial. Paperwork. A lot of it. But the hardest part's done. We pulled into the driveway of the old house on Maple Street. The wild roses were still blooming in the back road. The porch was still sagging. But when I walked through the front door, it felt different. Lighter. Cleaner. The family was already there. Carl, Tom, Leo. They'd set up a spread in the kitchen. Sandwiches, potato salad, a cake that said, "Justice served," in blue frosting. "Who bought the cake?" I asked. "Don't ask," Emerita said. "Just eat it." We sat around the kitchen table, all of us eating and laughing. For the first time in years, the house felt alive. The way it used to feel when my wife was still alive, when the kids were small and the biggest problem was a broken toy or a scraped knee. Derek raised his glass of iced tea. "To Dad," he said. "Who knew exactly what to do? Who saved our family?" I shook my head. "I just did what any father would do. I saw a problem and I dealt with it." "Not any father," Clara said. "The Vance family, they picked Derek because they thought he was weak. They thought he was easy to manipulate. They didn't count on you. They didn't count on a man who would stand up in front of 200 people and fight for his son." Leo nodded. "You taught us something, Dad. You taught us that it's never too late to do the right thing. That age isn't weakness. That you can always fight back." I felt something in my chest. A warmth I hadn't felt in a long time. Pride, maybe. Or hope. "This isn't the end, though," I said. "We still have to get through the trial. We still have to deal with all the fallout. The media, the gossip, the people who'll still believe Vanessa's version of events. We can handle it," Carl said. "We've got each other. That's all we need." Derek put his glass down. He looked at me, his eyes steady. "Dad, I want to do something. I want to fix the house. I want to pay back everything I almost took from you." "Son, you don't owe me anything." "I do," he said. "I owe you everything. I almost let her destroy us. I almost let her take your home, your peace, your whole life. You gave me a second chance. The only way I can live with myself is if I earn it." I looked at him. Really looked at him. He wasn't the same boy who'd stood at that altar. He was stronger. Wiser. Broken in some ways, but healing. "All right," I said. "You can fix the porch. But I'm not going to let you do it alone." Clara grinned. "We'll all help. It'll be a family project. Like when we built the treehouse." "That treehouse nearly collapsed," Tom said. "I remember you kids built it with rope and dreams." "It lasted," Emerita said. "That's what matters." We laughed. The kitchen echoed with it. The sound filled the house, the sound of a family putting itself back together. That night, after everyone had gone home, Derek and I sat on the porch. The stars were out, bright and clear. We could see the wild roses in the moonlight, tangled and beautiful. "Dad," he said, "do you think she loved me at all, even a little?" I thought about it. I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell him she'd never loved him, that it was all a game. But that would have been too easy. And it wouldn't have been the truth. "I think she loved what you could give her," I said. "And that's not the same thing. But I also think, in her own twisted way, she convinced herself it was real. That's the tragedy of people like Vanessa. They lie to everyone. But they lie to themselves the most." Derek was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I think I knew that. I think I knew all along. I just didn't want to believe it." "That's the hardest lesson, son," I said. "The truth doesn't say what you want to believe. It just is. And the only way to live a good life is to face it, no matter how much it hurts." He looked at me. "Thanks, Dad. For everything." I put my hand on his shoulder. "You're welcome, son. That's what I'm here for. The trial was 3 months later. Vanessa and her father were convicted on all counts. The cousin was sent back to prison for violating his parole. Sandra Vance was acquitted, but she'd lost everything. Her reputation, her money, her family. The house on Maple Street stayed mine. The wild roses kept blooming. Derek didn't RRY anyone that ya are. But he did get a new job. He sta root working with CARL, helping people who'd been scammed. He turned his shame into purpose. He turned his mistake into a mission. Clara moved back to town. She got a job at the local Libra Re and sta root taking CA Re of me. Not because I needed it, but because she wanted to. Leo stayed too. He fixed the porch. He fixed the roof. He fixed everything I couldn't fix myself. I watched my family grow stronger. I watched them heal. And I realized that sometimes, the worst moments are the ones that teach us the most. They strip away everything that doesn't matter. They leave you with what's real. Love. Family. The truth that's the only thing that lasts. If you've ever had to make the hard choice, the one that TRs your family apart to save it, I'd like you to leave a comment. Tell me your story. Because I think we've all been in that church, one way or another. And if you found something in this story that stayed with you, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We're building a community here. A family of people who know that the truth is always worth telling. Always. Because in the end, love isn't about what you take. It's about what you're willing to give back.